empowering you to build better lives. That's what we do. Welcome to today's edition of the Empower Podcast, a podcast dedicated to empowering people to improve lives. Today, I'm here with Amanda Carr. Amanda, thanks for joining us all the way from the East Coast. Yep. You're here doing some filming, and so we appreciate you being here and sharing your secrets of empowerment with the world. So how are you doing?
Good. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And you've been busy filming all day. Are you up for having this conversation today?
I think so. Yes. Yeah. I'm pretty sure I'm ready for this.
Good. So Amanda, a little bit about Amanda so that our viewers or our listeners understand. So you are a 3-year team elite. You're a 2-star platinum. You've basically crushed it in this business ever since you joined the business. You're a mother of 2, excluding your husband, Trevor, who's phenomenal and looks amazing in gator boots while he does lawn care on social media, if you follow him, right?
Yes.
So Trevor's amazing. He's a great guy, but love having you on. And before New Skin, you were a labor and delivery nurse.
That's correct.
And I have to go on the record. I get very uncomfortable talking about anything to do with the labor and delivery process, per a reference in Gretchen's podcast earlier. And so I hope to avoid any awkward conversation about the actual process.
Well, should we just get into it? Like, how labor and delivery?
I observed on my own children, and that was enough to scar me for life. But that being said, I didn't have to go through the process. See, now we're talking about it. But in any case, so you were that. So let's dive into your past. And I want to know historically, so where'd you come from? Did you grow up with siblings, mom and dad?
Yeah.
Dynamics. Give me that.
So to be honest with you, I had one of those perfect childhoods that people don't have now as an adult. Yeah. Talking to my friends, they didn't, that was more of a rare thing for people. Mm-hmm. But if I look back, I had an amazing childhood, 2 parents. I have 2 older brothers. And the only thing that was different about me compared to the other kids is that my dad was a DEA agent.
Oh, wow.
So we had to move around.
This gets interesting.
Yeah, it does. It does.
Yeah.
The plot thickens. So we had to move around every 3 years.
Okay.
And I do attribute that to my success as an adult now, only because I was around so much change. If we get settled, 3 years later, we're moving. Yeah. Get settled, meet new friends, 3 years, we're moving again.
Wow.
So we lived in Florida, Spain, Missouri, Massachusetts, Virginia, and then landed in Georgia. Which,
interesting.
Yeah. So then my dad got one more promotion and he actually declined it for me because I was in my sophomore year of high school. Okay. And now that I look back, that would have been like his biggest promotion. And I feel horrible.
He gave it up.
He gave it up for me.
What does that say about your dad?
Oh, he is a selfless man and would do anything for family over anything. So I always look at that. And as a teenager, I was like, well, of course you're not pulling me out.
Yeah.
And now as an adult, I'm like, I wish I would have let him do that for me.
The things we do for our kids, right? And now as a mother yourself, that we'll do anything for our kids.
Anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you grew up abroad for a few years. And how old were you in those years?
I was 2 years old and then we left when I was 5.
Okay. So moving around as you did, very formative. And you said it contributes to a lot of your success today. I think I know why, but explain why do you feel that way?
Because when you're used to change, you're able to adapt.
Yeah.
So, in anything in life, if there's always going to be change happening. And if you can adapt easily and be able to also talk to anybody, because you have to have those skills when you are moving around. You can't be a shy kid. You have to be able to make friends. Otherwise, it's going to be very hard for you.
For sure.
So I think that it made me tougher and made me more outgoing. And it made me to be able to adapt to change. So when anything was happening in life, it wasn't a big deal. Yeah. I was like, oh, that's life. We have to adapt, move on, and succeed.
No, and that's amazing to learn. I always wonder, so I raised my kids abroad for their whole lives, right? My youngest was 4 when we moved, and she graduated high school from Japan, so a bunch of different countries. And I've always wondered, did I damage them internally? But to your point, because the social norms and the dynamics of that, but as you said, the lessons that you learn or the capabilities that you learn to make friends quickly, move through difficult circumstances, all very helpful.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So as a kid, what did you like to do?
So, I was actually into a lot of sports and I danced a lot. I danced pretty much since I was 3 years old. But I was in soccer, basketball. I was into heavy sports. So, and then when I got to high school, my mom, it's so funny. My mom always said, Amanda, you're never the cheerleader. You're going to have people cheering for you. And I was like, yeah, that's how it's going to be. And then I got to high school.
Never the cheerleader, only people cheering for you.
But then
something there.
But I did get to high school and I was doing all the sports. I actually was that kid that was, this is so funny. I was in band, sports, and became a cheerleader.
Okay.
So I did.
You crossed the social.
Completely.
What is that called, Kathy? What's it called when you got three social norms?
Correct.
Right?
Yeah. So like everybody.
That's amazing.
So you know how in high school you have your own clique.
Yeah.
So I was a part of every single clique. So like nerds, and then you have like, oh, these people are popular, and then
we prefer to be called smart people.
Smart people. Yes. No, but I wasn't technically the smart person. I was just hanging out with the smart people. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So but during football games, I also did color guard, which is funny for like my husband still talks about that because I would do concert band, and then for football games, I would go halftime to do color guard, and then I would be on the sidelines doing cheerleading. Yeah, so I was just always involved in things.
And did you and Trevor go to the same school?
We went to the same college.
The same college.
Yes. Okay. And we actually met when we were both leaving.
Interesting.
He was graduating and I was going to a nursing school.
Okay. And we'll get into nursing in 1 second. Yeah. Before we do, what instrument did you play?
Clarinet.
You did?
Yeah.
So is that winds? Winds or strings, right? Strings or winds? Isn't that
wind?
It's a wind because there's no string.
No, there's no string.
Yeah. So you've played that, and do you still play the clarinet?
Oh no! If I picked that up, I wouldn't even know what to do.
Okay.
But I was a killer in high school though. That was my thing.
Oh, that's okay. That's great. So you enjoyed sports, you enjoyed competing, but you also enjoyed everything else. You enjoyed different types of people.
Yep.
What is that expression? If you try to excel in everything, you don't excel in anything.
Yeah.
But would you agree with that or disagree with that?
I would disagree with that. Okay. I think that you can, be a jack of your own trades?
Jack of all trades, master of none. Yeah.
Oh, well, that doesn't even go with what I'm trying to say.
No, it completely goes. No, because the expression is if you're a jack of all trades, you kind of know a little bit about everything, but you're not a master.
Yeah, I actually agree with that. Yeah. I was never like the best cheerleader. I was never the best clarinet player. I was never but
although I think we have Davi, do you have a clarinet? We could.
Yeah, should we? Oh my God, let's pull it out.
Let's do it.
And I think I think that was actually that's spot on. I was never the best person at anything I was doing, but I was able to do everything and I was okay with that. Yeah. And I also loved being around different personalities. I think like when in high school when they're saying, oh, there's a clique, like I hated that. I was like, I would rather be a friend to each crowd so I can, have the perspective of their angle. And I think that again, as an adult,
that's huge.
It was very helpful for me because to see others' perspectives instead of just seeing your own perspective is kind of helpful.
I think it would be so helpful. Like I remember going back to my 5-year reunion. It was like 25-year reunion. Yeah. And I'm sitting there with my clique watching the whole reunion, and they're showing like videos of everything that went on our senior year, and I'm watching this. Like I didn't know that 90% of the stuff that happened. Like it was all just what my little group thought was it. And at the end of it, I was like, I would have been so much better off had I not been in a clique and just been friends with everybody and having a complete experience.
Yep.
So you kind of got that. And that was from your childhood, which translates huge into the business today. So we'll talk about that because one of the things I admire with you, and I follow your group online, not weirdly, I just see it socially, and I'm impressed with the diversity of people in your team. So we'll get into that and like how you relate to that. But before we go there, so talk with me about how did you decide to get into nursing and what was the career choice decision? Like who'd you talk with?
Yeah.
How did that come to be?
Well, so I as a severe asthmatic. So growing up, yes. So growing up, I was in and out of the hospital all the time. I was on steroids for a good amount of high school. So I had like the balloon face, I had a lot of things going on. Well, when I was also afraid of needles, which of course, if you're in and out of the hospital, that's not like And then I had to go on monthly shots, starting like new drugs and stuff like that. So,
and yet you played the clarinet.
And I played the clarinet.
As an asthmatic, you played the clarinet. That's pretty good.
Yeah. So
you overcame it clearly.
Well, my mom wanted me to do that because she wanted me to be a swimmer and do the clarinet because it would open my lungs up.
For sure.
So I guess as I would be going to these appointments, they were very traumatic for me if I had to get needles or anything like that. And the nurses were on my side. They were the first person that gave me comfort, aside from my mom.
Yeah.
And I just admired them.
Yeah.
And so I always knew that I wanted to do that for somebody else. I just wanted to help people.
Yeah.
And the reason I chose labor and delivery is because I felt a connection to other women and going through one of the hardest moments in their life and bringing a child into this world, or maybe they're, suffering a loss. And I can be that person that maybe gave them an ounce of comfort that they can remember for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
So
that's impressive. I always think just to enter the medical profession, but specifically the nursing profession, you really do have to overcome like 5 of the top 7 fears. Like when you think about, needles, blood, vomit. I mean, I could go down the list. It's like everything everyone hates,
right?
But you have to basically overcome that from day one, or you're done.
Yeah.
And so I admire people that go into nursing. So that's great. So did you go directly into a nursing program? Did you go through university first? How did that work out?
So I went to Georgia Southern University.
Okay.
I stayed there for 3 years. I took an extra year because I wanted to hang out with my friends,
Okay.
So then I had that year.
Extended
that
program.
extended. And then I went 2 years of nursing school to finish my bachelor's degree in St. Simons, Georgia. So after that, I spent a total of 5 years in St. Simons where I began my nursing career.
Okay, fantastic. And is St. Simons near Atlanta?
So it's about 5 hours south, 5.5 hours south. So it's the border of Florida and Georgia.
Interesting. But you did eventually move to the greater Atlanta area.
I did.
And so give me that journey and then we'll dive into
so I love St. Simon's Island. It was such an amazing experience in my 20s, but I think my family was back in Atlanta. A certain man was back in Atlanta.
Mr. Carr.
And I was never the woman that was like, I'm moving back for a man.
Yeah.
But I was.
Really?
I mean, I didn't tell him that, of course. I told him I was moving back for my family.
Yeah.
But he was definitely a catalyst in that.
Good.
So, yeah.
Good. Okay. So that kind of catches us up. So the last thing I would ask you, and I think I know the answer to it, is do you consider yourself a confident young adult moving in or a self-conscious and self-conscientious?
That's a very good question because I appear to be confident.
Yeah.
But there are some moments of not feeling confident.
Yeah.
Even to this day. So I think everyone goes, I wish I had your confidence. And I'm like, that's so funny that you think that. But if you present yourself as a confident person, you soon then feel confident.
Yeah.
So of course, everybody has their insecurities.
Yeah.
But for me, I think my upbringing and everything that, happened, I think that I'm mostly a confident person.
I would think it would be really difficult to not be at least marginally confident having moved around as much as you did and having to make new friends and present yourself over and over again. At least watching me or observing my kids do that, they did it so much better than me, who grew up in the same place for 18 years and just had my group and my clique, as I said, and life was easy. Until it wasn't, right?
Yeah.
And you get cast to do something else. So, so you go through that, you get a job, you start to work nursing. How long were you a nurse and what did you love about it and what did you hate about it?
So I was a nurse for 10 years.
Okay. It's a lot of babies.
It's a lot of babies.
Have you ever counted it up?
I wish I did because,
I could do quick math for you.
Yeah, I actually delivered.
It's probably 200 babies.
I helped deliver Lennon. So
2,000 babies.
Yeah.
If you did 200 a year for 10 years.
Yeah.
Like maybe it's like 5,000.
I can't even do the math.
You
Well,
personally delivered 5,000. That's amazing.
well, that would be cool. Yeah, if that was that many. But, so when I moved to Atlanta, my goal was to work at the baby factory. So it's north side.
Known as Utah.
Right. So there's a
Kind of.
Yeah, right.
There is a hospital that's called the baby
we call it the baby factory. It's called Northside Hospital in Atlanta. And so that was my goal. I said, if I'm moving from this small town and what I know there, I am going to work at the best hospital possible that does labor and delivery, which was Northside. And they deliver the most babies in the United States. So I think like roughly around 50 babies every 24 hours. Like that's crazy. So popping them out, right? So you're going to be having
literally catching them,
catching them. I've literally caught a few in my hands. Yeah. So that is, that was honestly such an amazing experience. I've learned so much. The best part of nursing was definitely the patients. Like I felt such fulfillment out of that. I loved helping people. And I think labor and delivery was such a passion of mine that even when I actually started Nu Skin, I could have left my nursing career a while ago, but I didn't because I still loved it. The reason why I left it is because COVID happened.
Okay.
I was getting burnt out. We weren't getting breaks to staffing, and I was pregnant. So when you're pregnant, pushing
with your
both of them, I was pregnant with both of them. So
if I do the math here,
so
twins?
No, sorry. Well, I was pregnant with the first, so I was
okay.
Yeah, and then the second one I was still working as a nurse.
Okay.
So when you're not getting breaks, because of and I think everyone was burnt out.
On your feet all the time.
Yeah, and I was actually losing money going to work than actually staying home.
Okay.
So that was the only negative, honestly, because the long days, but to me that was all worth it.
Yeah. It was worth it until it wasn't.
It wasn't. Yep.
And you kind of knew it was time to make a change.
Yep.
What was that time? Like was it gradual, or was it like one day it's like you've seen Forrest Gump where he just stops running?
No, it was 100% gradual.
5,000th baby is just like, I'm done.
No, it was gradual. Okay. Because it was just built up over time where I'm like, this is ridiculous. And then, but I'm not going to leave. Yeah. And then over time, until I was pregnant with Mia, my second. Okay. And what am I doing? Yeah. One of those kind of moments.
Yeah. It's insane.
But it was very hard to break up with that career. I still think about it. I love it. Coming back to help deliver Lennon, like brought me that joy that I missed so much. But at the same time, I am so lucky to be in the position I am that I get to raise my babies at home while working,
Trade-offs, but there's something about the labor and delivery process, specifically relating to your patients, that you really miss.
Yes.
And maybe that's a compelling reason why you're in the business you're in now today, and why you're successful the way you are.
Yes.
So we'll get into that.
Yeah.
Okay, so now let's get into your introduction to Nu Skin. How did this happen? So I assume it was during COVID.
It was.
Right? And you're tired, you're on your feet all the time, and all of a sudden you see what?
Oh, the Louis Spa device online.
So you see somebody post.
Yep.
Who?
Gretchen Clark.
Gretchen. So Gretchen in the room. She's trying to be quiet. Gretchen.
Yeah.
Yep. So you see a post from Gretchen on the Loomis Spa.
Yep. And this was, she probably posted it, I think it was February of 2020. And I immediately asked her for a link.
She claims it was March of 2020, but we won't get into the details.
Oh, yeah, details.
One of you is lying.
Yeah.
Can you fact check it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, no, that's when I bought it. The April is when I bought it, but the first time I saw her post was like in February or March, one of those months.
Got it. So we're both right.
It was April.
We're both right.
Was it April?
Yeah, it was February.
Well, I thought it was.
I don't know how much of this story we can believe.
Right. Honestly, don't believe any of it.
I don't know. It sounds made up.
And I think I thought it was. I think I thought it was February because she was posting it so much that it seemed like a long time that she was posting it before I actually pulled the trigger.
Sure.
So
you see this, but you see the device. We're going to get tactical here because I also want to know like where success comes from for you in this business. But so you see the post on the device. Were you like, I got to have it for myself?
Immediately.
Okay, for myself.
Yes, because I suffered cystic acne.
Okay.
More as an adult than I was as a teenager, which is wild. And then add in COVID with the masks.
Yeah.
You can imagine what my skin was like with someone who's cystic acne. I have
working all the time.
Yeah. I think I was using my husband's Clarisonic here and there, but then that would make my skin worse.
Okay.
Don't
Trevor
need to
was using a Clarisonic?
Yeah, he was into skincare more than me. I was like letting the shampoo
and by the way,
run over my face.
Good on product now,
right?
Too, right?
It really is.
He's like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I even had a moisturizer. Like that's how, and I am at this point 29 years old. Yeah. And so.
Still totally new.
Yeah. Okay. But I see this cool device. Yep. Gretchen's posting about it, giving me major
And you didn't know Gretchen?
Not in person. We met online before she kind of exploded on the internet.
Okay.
My friend was like, hey, I work out with this girl. You should follow her. She's hilarious, that kind of deal. So friends of friends. So yeah, we get into that. And I asked her for a link for it. Yep. And I totally ghosted her because I looked at that price and I was like, can't afford that. I'm a nurse, right?
Was it the $249 price or the $199?
No, it was the $199 price.
Okay.
And I just
got it.
Now, granted, I could afford it.
Despite Trevor spending $249 on his Clarisonic, but that's neither.
Right. Yeah. But at this time, I was going to be paying for it.
Yep.
And even though I'm spending that money elsewhere on makeup, on going to the bar, whatever it was at that time, I'm like, oh, I can't afford this piece of device. How do I even know it works? Yeah. Even though it immediately attracted me. Yeah. So then she keeps posting about it. So I was like, okay, let me ask for another link. And I did the same thing. Oh, the price hasn't changed for some reason.
So you DM'd her.
Yeah.
And said, hey, send me the link. She sends it to you. Yep. And then you just totally ghost her.
Yeah. And then we're talking over the time, like, from other stuff. And then I would ask her again. And it's so funny looking back because I have this happen all the time.
Yeah.
Right. And then, so I asked her again, price didn't change. And then my mom and my best friend bought it from Gretchen. And they didn't even tell me.
Wow.
Okay. Right? Behind my back. Yeah. They knew I was looking at it.
So you clearly told them.
Yes.
And then they start buying. They're like, if she's not going to pull the trigger, we'll pull it.
Yeah. So they start following Gretchen, buy it from her. And so my mom gets it in the mail. I'm like, oh, Mom, let me try it. Let me see what this thing is about. Yeah. And the FOMO hit so hard. Yeah. I finally purchased it. I did.
Interesting.
Finally purchased it.
Okay.
And so from there,
yes,
my acne cleared up for myself in a week.
Yep.
I did purge a little bit after that.
Okay.
But I kept going and my skin was the clearest it had ever been. Like to the point where when I went.
You said purged.
Yes. So purging.
I mean, I'm familiar with that term for birds.
You don't, for skin?
No, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh my gosh.
You purge your skin?
Yeah, we're in skincare. You don't know what purging is?
No, I have no idea. So educate me.
So basically, it doesn't happen to everyone.
Isn't that what peregrine falcons do? Is they purge their food and then they re-eat it? Isn't that when they throw up?
Purging is throwing up. Yeah, so that's that's a term.
And they re-eat it.
So skin purging is purging. So if you have if you have gunk in your pores. Okay. And then you're using something for your skin that's going to help your skin. Yeah. That gunk that was in there is going to come to the surface. Okay. And then that will create small little pimple-like dots all over your face that you can, it's kind of like acne. Okay. And so a lot of people think, oh my gosh, this is making my skin worse. Okay. When it's not really the case.
The imperfections coming out.
To get rid of it. Got it. And then if you stick with that product over time, a couple weeks. Yeah. Your skin should clear up. But if you're adding in something into your skincare and all of a sudden you're having like these breakouts, your skin's probably purging.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying. Yeah. So you try something new. Yep. Yeah. My daughters say this all the time. If they try a new product and it makes them break it, they immediately jump off it as opposed to say, hey, give it 5 days or 7 days, whatever, because it's purging your skin and the imperfections out.
Yep.
So you saw that with your Luma Spa.
Yep.
And then it just cleared up.
It cleared up. And then were you
using other topicals with it or just the cleanse and treat?
I think it was just the cleanse and treat. I don't think anything else.
So Gretchen didn't try to upsell you?
No. She knew, but she tried sending me a link so many times. She knew I wasn't going to buy anything more.
She's like,
this cheap girl, she ain't going to buy it, right?
There's no way.
Right. So I show up at work And all of a sudden, when you take the mask off, you're talking to your friends, they're like, your skin is, because they're used to seeing my skin just horrible. Yeah. And I was like, guys, y'all need this thing. And again, okay, at this time, I had no idea. I didn't know Nu Skin existed. Yeah. I didn't know anything about it. Yeah. All I knew is...
don't take offense.
It's fine. If I did know it existed, I probably wouldn't have joined in that path. The way Gretchen approached me was...
Totally different.
Totally different. She literally was saying, hey, you could just... Well, first, I was sending her all these people. Go follow this girl, Gretchen. Yeah. I said, go buy this. It will change your skin. I probably sent her like 15 people. Yeah. And then at that time, after the 15th person, she must have talked to Carly Durst, and she was like, hey, you should probably recruit her. And she's like, hey, you want to like make money from these links? And I go, you're making money from this? What? Right over my head.
Why else would she post it?
Right over my head. I had no idea. I thought it was love it. Great goodness of her heart that she was doing this.
No, she's just charitable.
Yeah, charitable. So the second I found that out, I was like, yes. And I did the math in my head of how much money she probably made from all the referrals. Yeah. And I was like, all right. So I hit the ground running the second she said that.
So here's what's interesting, right? And you're talking about, so I've been involved in the company for 30 years, and I've seen the amalgamations of this business for so long.
Yeah.
But the description that you just described, the path you just described is kind of how like every word of mouth product sell ever happens, right? Like any movie that you go to, any restaurant you like. Why is it different for skincare, and should it be different, or should it be like to me, skincare is like the most personal thing. Yeah. Because people don't like to talk about acne, or they don't like to talk about whatever condition they're dealing with. Yeah. Like this just seems so natural, but some people think it's so odd to start with just product recommendations.
I don't know about that, because I think that skincare in this generation currently is probably like the highest on the list of what people are interested in now.
For sure. Yeah. By magnitudes on social media. Yeah. It's the number one category.
For sure.
2x over fitness.
Right.
The next, and baby's third.
Yes. But instead of like thinking, oh, skincare, instead it was presenting a problem that you might have, whether it's skincare, whether it's household items, anything. Yeah. If you're presenting a problem to somebody and a solution.
That people want or need, they have the same problem.
All of a sudden they're like, hey, this girl has a solution for me. Yeah. And I don't care, who it's coming from. But if it's coming from a trusted source on top of that, then done.
Yeah. Yeah. So you said you didn't know anything about Nu Skin. Sorry, this is getting pretty tactical, but you didn't know anything about Nu Skin. You frankly don't know Gretchen that well, other than you've been following her online.
Right.
She's DM'd you a couple of times, but you trusted her views on the product enough to outlay the money, which for you was difficult at the time.
Yep.
And then that when she invited you to start sharing, you just said, yeah, that's a natural thing.
Yeah, I didn't even read anything. She literally is like, here, sign up here. And I said, cool, where do I sign?
So how uncomfortable was it to go? So well, let's talk about your social media journey. Yeah. So how many followers did you have roughly at the time when you started? And how big of a leap was it going from nurse offline to all of a sudden repping your first product online?
Yes.
I think that's a transition that a lot of people struggle with.
Yeah. So I had less than 1,000 followers. Okay. I mean, close to 1,000, but acquaintances from college and whatnot. Yeah. So
mainly Facebook, by the way, or were you MySpace at the time?
Oh gosh, I loved MySpace. That was good. That was good back in the day. I really wasn't on. I was only on Facebook for to swap shifts for nursing. That's literally all I used it for. But
Instagram.
Yeah, it's just Instagram.
Okay. 1,000 followers, less than 1,000.
Yep. And Gretchen started following me because I randomly would post like my dogs, and I would randomly post like, oh, I love this Revlon blow dryer brush, whatever. Yeah. But not like anything. Maybe like a couple stories a day, if that.
Were you making money from any of those?
Oh, no.
So you were just sharing.
I didn't know people could make money online. Okay. Like I was dumb. Very dumb.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You should have hung out with the nerds more.
I should have. They figured it out a long time ago, right? So, yeah.
I don't know. Kim Kardashian a nerd? I don't know.
Genius, though.
Genius.
Yeah. So basically, I went from less than 1,000. So again, go back to the confidence. Carly hates this term, but I literally faked it till I made it. And like I said, if you put an exterior on that you are confident, it's going to instill confidence within you. So was I afraid to show my face online? Oh my gosh, yes. Like so afraid. But the more I got used to it and the more people would be like, hey, I really enjoy you sharing your life on here, the more confidence I had.
Yeah.
So, it was kind of word of mouth in the beginning. So to all my nurses friends, anybody I knew, you need this. And I wasn't even trying to make $1 off them. I literally, like I said, before I got signed up, I was telling everyone I knew, like, you need this. I'm a very opinionated, passionate person. I'm going to tell you when I love something and hate it. So taking that in person and bringing it to online made sense. I was like, if I'm doing this kind of things in person, why am I not taking this to social media? So, and there was no trainings that we had. You know, it started off with just a few of us, and I kind of just watched how other people did it and started acclimating that to my life.
To me, it feels like such a leap from going from not really sharing anything to all of a sudden sharing products you love, but we do it every day offline. And so your point was offline, online doesn't really matter.
Right.
As long as you have the confidence to try it.
Because if I'm talking to you right now and I'm telling you about something that I love, I'm like, you need to try this. You need to tell your daughter to get this, right? What's the difference of me telling you that versus me telling my less than 1,000 followers about that?
No, it's true. But I think where people go wrong, like if just observing it in sales myself, but observing it over time, is when you try to inauthentically recommend something of like, you've got to try this. You can't explain the features and benefits. You can't really talk about it from a personal needs point of view, right? And so you just kind of mess up. So I guess I would glean from what you describe in your journey and probably since that time, it's like I only rep stuff or I only recommend stuff to people that I actually love.
100%. So I think being genuine and being a real human being is literally the quote unquote secret sauce to this. Like if you come off looking like a salesman, no one's gonna buy from you. Why would they? They're like, oh, she's just trying to make $1. He's just trying to make $1 versus being yourself, being genuine, sharing things you love, things you don't love. People are going to trust you way more. And like talking to a human being, that's literally what you're doing. And I think that when people just sell to make $1 versus sharing what they love, that's the big misconnect in sales.
You know, there's two different authors, but there's Brene Brown and there's Liz Wiseman, and I'm trying to remember which one, but they talk about I think it's Brene that talks about like vulnerability and the power of vulnerability, right? That when we're vulnerable about ourselves, we relate more to people. So if you're going on and talking about acne, for example, that's a pretty vulnerable place to go online to talk about it. And yet, when you do that, it seems people really open up to that, as opposed to just going on and being sterile, you know, about things. So
and I think online, back in 2020 at least, a lot of people, influencers, who say they always looked perfect. So their makeup done, their hair done, the house is immaculate, even though they're saying it's a mess, and you're like, what? It's not a mess. Their kids are perfect. Everything, like holding up these standards to be so high when 99% of the world is not like that. So it's, well, how can anybody relate to you when you're trying to live this perfect life and not being probably who you are when the camera's off? So if you actually show up, bringing your vulnerability, like you said, bringing your insecurities, all that stuff, and being a real human being, people can relate to you. And when they relate to you, they trust you.
Yeah, that's interesting. No, I mean, I love it. But admittedly, I think it's pretty uncomfortable for people to do.
It is.
And I wonder how do you, and so you said you started out, there was no coaching, there was no training on how to do things. And by the way, I know you're here kind of doing some training, feeling that, but how did you get started? You said you observed it, you watched others. Now you have a pretty large team that does this naturally, or not naturally, but they're doing it. Have you systematized? Have you built out for yourself and your team trainings to get them over that hump?
Yes. But it's so funny because I sometimes go back to 2020 and I was like, ignorance was bliss back then, because when nobody was holding hands, they're just like, just figure it out. They just be yourself. But I think I missed out such a large portion of people that probably if they did have some hand holding, they would be very successful in this business. But then also, I think that somebody who is handed everything, almost like a toolbook, like, here, read this and you got it, also kind of gets a little handicapped in.
100%.
So I think there's a bit of both that works. But yeah, my team specifically, I've made a website for them.
Okay.
Just where you can find before and afters, that sort of thing. If you want an Instagram training, we did one specifically for that team. So it's kind of like we have all the resources for you. And then also you have my time. I don't care how far down you are. I'm one of your mentors. And if you need my time, then we can schedule a call.
So I'm a percentages guy. You might not be a percent. You may be like 1 in 5 or 20%. But of your team today, of new people coming in and getting started in the business, what percentage would you say are kind of just, they get it, they understand it, it's like second nature, or they're going to figure it out and they don't need a lot of coaching or mentoring, versus like those who need it? Like, is it a 50-50 split?
I stick to this. If you were to recruit 10 people, you are going to find one person who gets it.
Who's already dialed.
And that doesn't mean that one person is going to be the only successful person.
No, for sure.
It just means that this person I don't have to handhold.
Okay.
The rest of them, usually like about 90% of that is more of like coaching through all of it.
And so you end up spending your time obviously with the people who need it most but have highest potential, or do you try to split your time with anybody who's willing? Like, what are your criteria? Because your group's pretty big now, so I find it hard. Like, how would you balance that?
Literally,
many people today.
Yeah, my team knows this. If you give 100%, I will give 110% back to you.
Okay.
If you show up with 95%, I'm not taking a call with you. You have to give me 100% of your time. And if you are willing to work 100%, I will give you 100% back. Yes, I do. My call schedule is through the roof because I do have a lot of motivated people on my team that are very successful, but that's the part of duplication. So you duplicate yourself to your leaders. Your leaders are duplicating it to themselves. I'm still there for them. Like, hey, any of your affiliates, but my leaders are just as good, if not better than me. And that's the whole point of this business, is to find people better than you.
Yeah, well, and to that point, there is literally limitless potential at the point you're able to dial into the right types of people who get this and then understand how to do it, can replicate themselves, because it really is like a multiplication effect to do that. So let me get even more granular. And by the way, of all the podcasts, this is like the most detailed I've gotten on the actual business. So this is really helpful. And potentially we'll do a season 2 now. No, but how do you select who you're going to work with? Or do you literally the only criteria is you're willing to give 100%?
Yeah. Literally.
If you're willing to do it, I don't care whether you have 0 followers or 10,000.
Don't care.
Doesn't matter.
But I will say this. There are people that come in the business that don't want the full 100%. They don't want to build a team. They just want to send links out. And that's totally okay. So anybody is welcome on my team. I will show you. If you give me 10%, hey, I just want to do 10% of this. Okay, I'm going to give you 10% back to you. It's what you give is what I'll give back. Yes, what I'll match. Because that's important. If you come back to me and you're like, hey, I want to give 50% now. Amazing. I'm going to give 50% of my time for you. So,
and do you find people kind of cadence their way into it? Like they start out at the 10% level and then they say, yeah, no, I want to do it more. Or do you kind of find it to be binary? Like people are either like all in on something or they're never quite going to be in on anything.
Binary. Yep.
Interesting.
Exactly.
Yeah. I always wonder about that because it just feels like people are people. And I don't know. I mean, I've seen, myself included, your interests change, your stage of life changes, right? Maybe they're not willing to give up or ready to give up a nursing career, as you probably wouldn't have been in the first 4 years. But at the point that you want to commit to something, you commit. You
exactly.
Okay. Okay. So we got it pretty granular on the business. Let's talk a little bit about the future of social. So, and I'm going to get a little more macro now. Because there's so much buzz, like from a business perspective, on what's called the creator economy, right? So this is the whole shift of dollars away from traditional advertising, billboards, commercials, all of that into influencer and affiliate, influencer and promoter programs, and then affiliate marketing programs, which Nu Skin is somewhere a hybrid between them all, right?
Yeah.
There's kind of this affiliate model, but then there's more of an influencer opportunity as people kind of grow bigger. Where do you see all of this going, right? From a brand perspective. So you rep Nu Skin, and you've been involved with Nu Skin for years, but you have other brands that kind of come out and see what you're doing, and they obviously love your authenticity. They love your follower base. Obviously, brands are interested in this, but where do you see all this going? How's it going to change the way we shop, the way people buy, I guess?
Well, I mean, if you look back when Nu Skin started, where you were at and where you are now, the trajectory of where it's going is probably going to keep going where it's going. So we're already social. I mean, I don't know many people that still go to like a mall to like go try things. They're usually just ordering online, and whatever they don't want, they return, right? And a lot of people take recommendations from influencers now. And it can be, and an influencer, I don't want you guys to think that like an influencer has like 2 million followers or even 24,000. It could be somebody who has 500 followers, but that if you're influencing people, that's an influencer. So to me, I think we're headed, I mean, less is more these days. If you have to work hard to do something, people are not going to do it. So online is easy. Social media is easy. People want to see what other people are doing and what they're using. So I do feel like it is transitioning to that. But I also think that word of mouth in general, just a human interaction, I don't think that's ever going away.
No, I totally agree.
Yeah. But, you know, from meeting strangers, 100% it's going to be social media. I don't see many people going door to door anymore. Some people are weirded out if someone shows up at a door, you know? So
no, my door, somebody knocked on my door the other day, and it's the first time I've heard a knock forever. And then they rang the doorbell. I didn't even know what my doorbell sounded like. And I've been in the house 2.5 years.
No, I know. And then you're like, and I'm usually like yelling at my husband, who's supposed to be here right now? Like, we're not about that.
You're not cleared to go in.
No.
You're not there. So you feel like this is just a social norm trend that's going to just continue.
Yeah, I mean, look back
as we move forward.
Date back to the 1900s and where we are right now. It's constantly changing, and that's the whole, like what I was saying when I was moving around as a kid. Change is going to happen no matter what, where you are in life. And if you do not adapt to change, you will not succeed or go further.
Yeah. I think anywhere in our lives, that's probably a critical, like, core principle of success, right? Is you got to understand change. What about the platforms themselves? Like, where do you see, obviously TikTok's coming up. So Snapchat kind of came in for a while. Now it seems like Snap's dying out. TikTok's coming more. Where do you see the platforms going, and how do you see that affecting your business and your team as you bring in, I think, kind of younger and younger?
I mean, that's the thing. If we noticed our sales going down on Instagram and maybe we started dabbling in TikTok because that was the hottest thing at the moment, you better believe our team is going to dive fully into that platform to make sure that we get the maximum sales that we can get. I will say, though, I just assigned somebody up who does Snapchat. And she sells so much on Snapchat. It is wild. Really? And I was like, I didn't know people still do that. I'm like, that's great.
Apparently. So, but I think platforms are definitely, they're generationalized.
Always.
If that's the case, right? And so I do see that shift happening. But I think your point around the consistent principle is word of mouth. Authentic. Kind of these ways. And then everything else is just almost like a tactical iteration from those core principles. And listen, if I hear that door to door is the hottest thing now,
I'm going to be knocking on doors. Okay. Where it's hot, that's where I'm going, because I want to succeed. I want my people to succeed. So I don't care what I have to do. I'm going to train myself to be able to train others so that they can be successful in this business.
So like ortho pest control door to door. If
I'll do
you need
it.
to put on the white coat, you'll do it.
Got to be an example for the team.
I like it. Okay. So let's get into now team dynamics, coaching your team up. What do you focus on from an empowerment perspective? You can take a drink.
Oh, thank you so much.
But as you really push to help people succeed? As you said, if they show up 10%, you'll match them at 10.
Yep.
If they're willing to give 100, you'll do 110.
Yep.
Like that's your commitment to them.
Yep.
What are some of the principles you focus on training people or helping them, empowering them? Like where do you really spend your time? Like, what are the skills? What are the capabilities that you really try to help them with?
Yeah. I'm going to say this didn't come authentically for me.
Mm-hmm.
I actually had to learn how to be a leader, which I think is a big message I feel like people need to know, because some people are not made to be a leader.
Okay.
As a nurse, you're working for yourself. You're working for your patients. That's it. If you need help, people are going to help. That's it. But I don't have, it's not a team thing, really. Yeah. So as far as being a leader, I had to learn from Gretchen. I had to learn from Carly. And I would be on calls with them, listening to how they coached other people, or I would listen how she would talk to me. And I said, wait, she just completely spun that around, where now I'm thanking her for whatever. Like, I just little things like that, where I'd be like, how did she just do that? Where I was mad earlier and now I'm completely calm and grateful. I don't know. So there is some things that you have to learn with being a leader. So picking up, books, podcasts, listening to people who you look up to that are a great leader. So things like that. So little things I learned is, lead with confidence and lead from the front. So showing that you're doing the work as well and bringing that positive energy. And because for me, I'm a very blunt person. So if someone's like, I'm not making any sales, like what I want to say is, because you're not doing any work, very blunt. You know what I mean?
Give it back to them,
But I've learned how to not talk that way, how to say, well, you're doing an amazing job with posting, you're just not being consistent. I think if we work on the consistency, that maybe we can get you where you want to be in this business. So that is a huge leap from where I was to where I am now. So I think that leadership is a quality that some people do have in them, but I think a lot of people actually need to learn how to be a proper leader.
Yeah. And giving it back to them, as you said, in a way that they're going to
accept it.
Yeah, accepting of it, rather than saying, what are you talking about?
What are you doing? Yeah. Because that's what I want to say.
Yeah. No, for sure. Yeah, no, absolutely. No, I mean, because at the end of the day, it's always, I think leadership is just, there's this Epictetus quote that, or Heraclitus quote that's on any battlefield, 90 don't belong and they're fodder for the war. 9 are warriors that make the war. And then there's the one. And the one brings them all back, right? And it's this idea that 1 in 100 are effectively leaders. And then you've got 9 that are willing to put in the work, to work really hard and become that. But most people, it's hard. And whether they're willing to do it or not, or whether they're at the right time of their lives or not. Or whether, it comes down to needs, I think, at the end of the day. It's just a lot of work to do it.
100%.
So you end up doing that.
Just
and I naturally, think, I guess, or you've learned how to do it, not naturally.
And I think that you camouflage yourself to who you're talking to. So, I mean, to Gretchen, I can be myself, completely blunt, say what I feel. But, maybe to someone else, I can't be like that. I have to be more soft-spoken, more gentle, so I think it's, and I think that's where the adaptability and moving around as a child really helps me with that.
Sure.
And I think as a nurse, the psychology aspect of letting your patient understand what is going on, calming down your patient, you're having to use those psychological skills, which really actually helped with business and sales in general, which I have zero sales experience, but I know people. So I think that as leadership, that is a very important quality you need to have. You need to be able to camouflage to who you're speaking to.
I love it. Okay, so in our last couple minutes, then I see a hair in my eyes. In the last couple minutes, what's your, what would be, if you were to say, okay, this is my empowerment journey, I'm a few years into this business, what do you want to do over the next 10 years, 20 years? What's your goal? What do you want to accomplish?
I only want to grow and obviously make a legacy for myself, but a legacy for my team. I want them to have the biggest success in the world. And I think that's where I didn't expect when coming into this business, it was just for myself. Now, 4 years later, it's for my team. I want their dreams to come true. I want all of that. So I think that if somebody comes in and gives me that work ethic and gives me their why in the business, I will do everything in my power to make that happen as long as you're giving that energy back. So I think if I could see myself in 10, 20 years, I want to create other people who are in my position today over and over and over again so that they can feel how I feel today, which is so blessed and grateful. And just, I feel very lucky.
I think it's there's a magical moment when things shift anywhere in our lives, right? If we're dealing with challenges, obstacles, goals, it's when it's no longer about ourselves, it almost opens up a whole new dimensionality of the ability to achieve it, because the motivation has shifted, right? From this kind of selfish, which there's nothing wrong with being selfish when you need to be selfish, but when we work towards something that's bigger than ourselves, it's like you're capturing the power of the universe. And like, that sounds cosmic, but it's not. It's no, we're just like, I'm here to help you be successful. That's a totally different outcome, because now you're invested in the same mission that I have.
100%.
And all you're doing is really replicating what you've already done in mass.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And that's the power of kind of multiplication.
The power of one.
I like it. The power of one.
Yeah.
So, Amanda, before we close, is there anything we didn't cover? I'm sure we could talk for hours, but I'm conscious of your time as you're filming all day. What else would you like to talk about before we close? Anything? Did we leave anything on the table?
Gosh, I mean, I feel like we've talked about a lot. I think as far as social media is concerned, for anyone who's listening who's struggling to like make that change to social media, I think that change is scary no matter what. Just remember, it's scary for everyone, including myself when I started. But again, the only way to overcome that is to keep showing up and being persistent and consistent, and it will pay off.
I love it. Just set your sights, be intentional, keep going.
Yep, that's it.
Well, listen, this has been an amazing podcast. Appreciate you spending time. Yeah. We did not get to your love of Bravo television.
Man.
We will do a whole different episode on that. If we ever do one, you will be first.
Thank you. Guys, stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Okay, thanks everybody. Thanks for joining us. Amanda, thanks for being here.
Thanks, Ryan.
See ya.
Bye.